Welcome back to the Vanessa G Fitcast. I'm Vanessa Pozos, and here with me is Omar Pozos, my co-host and husband. How you doing, Omar?
I am. How am I today? I'm a little scatterbrained. I feel like there's so many moving pieces and stuff that I need to get on my to-do list, but we are hanging in there. How are you?
Yeah, I'm like, same, but you know, what else is new? We like, we're the types of people we like to stay very busy, and we're just kind of at that phase of life, right? And it's something that we're grateful to be able to have a lot of great stuff to keep us busy that we love.
I will say it is my birthday in 2 weeks, no big deal.
Well, the week this comes out will be...
Oh, it'll be that...
That's that Sunday.
That Sunday, yeah. Well, anyways, it's my birthday soon, and we're doing a little staycation, and so I am very much looking forward to having a book by the pool and reading and getting some sun, maybe having a couple cocktails. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah. When you are consistently working 60 to 75 hour weeks like we do, it's like you have to plug in little like vacations or staycations every so often. And it's like our little step back to be like, okay, well, we need to just let our nervous system come down a little bit.
Yep. So I'm excited for that. And then turning 33, which sounds very old.
Oh, forever young.
I know.
Well, today's episode, so I want to talk about a topic that I get a lot of questions about, and that is how do you improve your gut health when labs or supplements is not really available to you, or it's not something that you want to explore, or you don't have the resources for, for whatever reason. Because we often talk about, of course, like I'm really big on the value of quality functional labs like the GI map. We don't talk about it as much in our content like the podcast, but we also, are big on proper use of supplementation. I think supplements can be incredible when used in the right ways, the right order, the right implementation of these supplements. That's why we don't talk about it as much, because it isn't great for general advice. Like, I'm not one of those types of people who would just generally talk about supplements. I don't have any associations with supplement companies. I have no interest in just like selling supplements, but we use supplements, we utilize them within our coaching because they are incredibly powerful for healing the body on that functional level.
I have a question for you. I'm going to put you on the spot. I think I know the answer to this, but you just brought up something that I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and so I wanted to kind of hear your thoughts. So this was a lady who had been having GI issues for 10 plus years, and she's in a position where, unfortunately, the finances aren't quite there yet to do some sort of, test to get an understanding. And so she was like, I could improve the nutrition, I can improve training. She's like, but am I wasting my time when it comes to, working on my gut health if I don't have the means or the resources, or right now I'm not in a great place to get some testing done? So what are your thoughts there?
Definitely not a waste of time. And I think this is a very common misconception where people tend to be on like one end of the spectrum or the other. They tend to be either like, oh no, I don't want to go the route of supplements and labs. I don't want to have to spend money on anything. Like, I just want to like not have any of that in my process. And then you have people on the other end of the spectrum that are like, just tell me what supplements to take. I'll do all the labs. I'm ready to like spend money and invest and do whatever I need to do to feel better. But then they tend to forget the pieces that we're going to be talking about today that are the foundation. So on today's episode, we're talking about how do you improve gut health without labs and supplements. And this here, what we're going to talk about, this is the foundation. So even though we talk about labs, supplements being important, being a huge piece of the puzzle for dealing with deeper gut issues that need to be solved, right? But we can't even jump into those types of things unless we're doing what we're going to talk about here today, because it's not just about, taking supplements. Like, that's not going to help you if you're not doing it on a stable foundation. This is why this is the foundation. This is what we work on with our clients. So like, even if you maybe are somebody who you hope to become a client, or you maybe have a spot reserved to become a client, because we do have a wait in that regard, like, start working on these things now, because you can start the implementation side of this. And then for the pieces of this that you struggle to implement, that's also what coaching is for. It's the implementation. It's not just telling you what to do, but it's really helping you figure out how can we do these things in a way that fits into your life, your personality, and just the overall demand and constraints of who you are.
And I think I love analogies, and you have always kind of shared some good ones on the podcast. But going back to your point where somebody's like, well, if I can't get the labs or the supplements, then I might as well not do anything at all. To me, it reminds me of like when you were saying how it's almost like having a flat tire, and you get out of the car, and because you have that one flat tire, now you're going to stick, nails and holes in the other three. And it's like, well, if you can still get the other three in a good place, maybe that fourth tire might get you to the next, exit sign so that you can, I don't know, get a repair or something. But it's like, you can still do a lot of damage control without supplementation, without labs too, right?
100%. Yeah, I guarantee you, if you are suspecting you have gut health issues, or you have gut health issues, whatever that looks like for you, bloating, it could be, bowel movements that are not ideal. It could be stomach pains, aches. There could be literally anything going on here. But whatever you're dealing with, it causes you to suspect you have gut health issues, or has you knowing you have gut health issues. These things that I'm going to talk about here, absolutely you will see a difference, and you will feel a difference from doing these things. So we're going to talk about really kind of three pieces of this, and it really breaks down into meal hygiene, which really comes down to how you eat. We're going to talk about meal timing, which is about really when do you eat. And then we're going to talk about, what people always want to know as well, which is the what do you eat part. We're going to break that down into really kind of two different directions.
So what is it? How, when, and what?
Yeah, exactly. So for the first part of this, the how you eat, the meal hygiene piece. So we need to understand that digestion is not like this thing that just happens like literally in your stomach, in your gut. It is happening starting in the mouth and starting really from the brain. The brain is what's sending signals to create this process of digestion in the body. So digestion doesn't start when you start eating. Digestion starts when you smell food, when you touch food.
When you think about eating?
Yeah, honestly, when you think about eating, you see food. It is like when your brain is centered around food, your body is priming itself for the digestive process. So this is where we need to understand the how you eat, and even just like the leading up process to that bite of food going in your mouth. This is all going to affect whether or not you end up bloated, whether or not you end up gassy, whether you have a stomach ache, whether you have
burping.
Yeah, whatever that is, this will affect that. So the first thing, number one, is minimizing distractions. And this is a huge piece because we are a very distracted world. We are a distracted society. Maybe you're listening to this episode right now while you're eating a meal. And while I don't want to tell you to not listen to us,
to Vanessa.
Please continue to listen to us, but also maybe consider not listening to something while you eat your food. And this is a very, very hard piece of advice to give. It's something that you and I struggle to implement at times because as a society, we are all very busy and we want to be multitasking at every moment that we can, right? But when we are distracted, especially if we're also stressed on top of that, if our mind is in other places, we're thinking about, this meeting we just had, we're thinking about this conversation we need to have later, like whatever, if our mind is off in other places, it's distracted, it's not focused on food, what's going to happen is that's going to cause your body to actually perceive that it needs to be preparing for this stressor. And on a physiological level, what does that mean? If your body is anticipating this form of stress, it is going into a place of we need to protect ourselves. We need to keep ourselves safe. So we need to divert blood flow away from the digestive tract and divert blood flow to the limbs in case we need to, run away from the tiger that's about to eat us, right? It is actually preparing your body on that physiological level for fight or flight. It is not preparing your body to just be relaxed and digest food. So in that instance, if your brain is elsewhere, your mind is elsewhere, that alone, you already are kind of dampering your digestive abilities. You're diverting that blood flow away. Your body is not priming itself to start creating digestive enzymes. That could look like as simple as, watching TV while you eat your meals, scrolling on social media, going down a rabbit hole of reels, eating on the go, eating in the car. Like all these things are going to have that little bit of effect that's going to cause your body to not be as able to digest food, right? And that's what can end up like that alone simply can end up with more bloating after a meal because you didn't produce the digestive enzymes, you didn't break the food down, and now you're bloated.
I feel like this is giving me anxiety. Even just yesterday, I was like, okay, I have all of this to do, and I can't wait to sit at my desk and read over my emails. And I think I did this, but I literally had my eggs, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have my plate and just go eat it at my desk. And I'm literally shoving food in my mouth as I'm reading emails, as I'm trying to answer Slack messages. And I'm like, oh my god, this is so crazy. But this is a big eye-opening thing for me.
It is. And it's something for myself that I do notice a big difference between when I slow down and actually like take space for a meal versus when I eat a meal multitasking, doing something else. And I think a lot of people start to notice, if you can even just like, if right now 100% of your meals are eaten with distraction, try reducing that to like 75% and see if you start to notice any positive changes in how you feel. Some other aspects of this though, that's a big one, is like eating without distraction. But along with that, some other things that might feel more easy and accessible for you when it comes to how we eat. So one, if you actually can take that space to prepare your food, and whether that's like cooking a meal, if you have the capacity to cook it, or if it's something as just simple as like taking a few minutes to kind of like arrange your meal and prepare it, rather than literally it's like you order from Uber Eats, you're on your meeting, Uber Eats delivery arrives and you're like still in the meeting and you're still just like starting to shovel down food. The space that you take to actually prepare your food, remember what we talked about, when your mind is now focused on the food, you're seeing the food, you're smelling the food, you're touching the food, your brain is tuning in to the fact that we are about to eat. So what is your brain going to do? It's going to send signals to the body. Hey, let's start preparing. Let's get the oven heated up, right? Like let's get those digestive enzymes going because we're about to ingest some food.
Yeah.
If we are not, like if we're just like really quickly shoveling the food down, you're kind of cutting into that a little bit. Another aspect is how fast do we eat? So if anybody's seen like the reels that were going viral there for a little bit, where it was like trying to keep up with the speed of my spouse eating, I feel like sometimes I can maybe possibly relate to that.
What makes you say that, Vanessa?
Some of us in this household tend to eat pretty fast.
Where's Zoe? Where's our dog Zoe? She will devour her food in like 30
true.
seconds.
She does eat.
You know what else that
well.
reminded me of? But I mean, think about it. Like dogs, like when you offer them a treat and they start salivating and there's like drool and stuff,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's probably their body. And I bet you our body does something like that too.
100%. Yeah,
I start drooling.
I see you
I'm like,
drooling as soon as you look at me preparing a meal. And who knows if it's because you're looking at me or the food.
Both. One's a meal, one's dessert. You figure out which one it is.
Oh, okay. So back to eating slowly. We really have been trained, I think, again, as a society, that we just need to move very quickly. We always feel like none of us have enough time in the day. And so, of course, when it comes to meals, like we're going to eat very quickly with things, right? The reality is, like, research shows that meals should take about 20 minutes to eat. So that's
20 minutes?
That's the
Are you
ideal.
serious?
I mean, how long does it take me to eat?
I mean, well, a long time. I don't know. I don't know.
Like an hour sometimes.
I would say
I eat
you're
very
pretty
slowly.
slow. You've gotten better, which, well, maybe I guess not better, but I'm like, dude, 5 minutes. Let's go. Next thing. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. So that's, again, like maybe pay attention to where is your starting point. Are you like more like Omar, where you can devour your meal in 5 minutes? If so, there we go. If so, let's see if we can slow that down a little bit. Let's see if we can go from 5 minutes to 7 minutes, and then 10 minutes, and then 12 minutes. And it's just like that little bit of incrementally slowing down is going to be a difference maker for you. Why? Well, for one, if you're eating more slowly, that's going to encourage you to chew your food more, because what's going to cause you to eat slower? It's going to cause you to say, okay, if I need to eat slower, then I need to take each bite and I need to like actually slow down in how long it takes me to swallow this bite of food. So what are you going to do? You're going to chew the food more. This is important because chewing is actually the first step of digestion. There is, of course, like these digestive processes that happen like once your food reaches the stomach, but those processes only actually work if that first step has already happened, which is what's happening in the mouth when you are breaking the food down and the enzymes in your saliva are actually starting to break things down. If you skip over that process because you just chew, swallow, now you're putting essentially
swallow.
You're putting like that first step of digestion, that you're skipping over that. And so now you're putting more work on your stomach to do. And it's no wonder, of course, you feel bloated and you don't feel your best, right?
At times I've even heard people, and I mean, it's happened to me where it's like you eat certain things and then like you see it in your stool and you're like, oh my gosh, that's not even digested. It's like, well, because you're not chewing it, or one, because 100%. You're not taking your time to let those digestive enzymes do their thing. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so then that's another aspect too. Again, it's all kind of like this lead up, this preparation aspect to where the process of preparing your food, seeing the food, smelling the food, and then slowly chewing the food, this is giving your body time for stomach acid to come in. It's giving your body time to say, okay, let's release this now. Let's get ready. It's literally like preheating an oven. If you just stick the chicken in the oven before it's heated up, it's going to be cooked really awkwardly weird because it just like was in the slow process of the oven heating up. If you preheat the oven and then you stick the chicken in, it's going to be cooked a lot better, right? Same thing with our stomach.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, I have a lot of good analogies. Thank you. The other aspect is when we eat slower, it's going to prevent gulping of air. Now, this is a big one, especially if you're someone who you tend to, maybe you burp often, or maybe you have like a lot of clearing of your throat, not naming any names.
Are we talking burping? Because what happened before the podcast even started recording?
I was clearing out for the recording.
We will air all of this dirty laundry here, Vanessa.
But that is an aspect of if we slow down, we're not going to be ingesting as much air, which is an important piece of your body being able to digest as well. Now, when it comes to our, what we're eating, a big part of this as well, another mistake people will make is that they drink a lot of water with their food.
I have to because I'm choking.
Yeah, because you're eating so fast. Now, if you feel like you need to drink a lot of water with your meal, that's probably a sign that you need to slow down and need to chew your food further, because that's the point. You should not have to be ingesting liquid with your meal if you're actually chewing it effectively. And the problem is if we are ingesting liquid as well, we're going to end up diluting those digestive enzymes. So even if you've done everything right up to this point, I've slowed down, I've made sure that my body is prepared, I'm not stressed out, I'm like taking space, I'm focused on the meal, I'm chewing slowly, but now you chug water with that bite, even though you prepared your body and your body actually producing enzymes, now you're watering it down, so it's not going to work as well. And then the other aspect is, again, kind of just like focusing on that, really just eating in a calm, relaxed state, really getting our body to recognize like, hey, no stressors right now. We can be relaxed. We're just going to focus on this food. A good activity that can really help somebody, especially if you're like, I am like listening to this and so far I'm like, oh my gosh, I do all these things. I struggle with all of this. I am like, I have a long way to go when it comes to these things. A good first step for you is just start taking a couple of deep breaths before your first bite. I do
that. That actually does help.
Yeah, it really, really, really does make a difference. And for some people, they might be like, oh, no, that sounds woo-woo. No, there is a lot of research here that those deep, slow breaths, you are shifting your nervous system state. And when we shift our nervous system state, we are allowing our body to
Maybe somebody's eating right now. Let's take a deep breath together. Maybe somebody's eating their meal right now. Ready? I feel so much better. I do.
Wow. Yeah. I'm so happy for you.
Listen, if somebody's listening, that you're welcome. While they're eating.
Now, just some overall lifestyle tips here as well. So when it comes to like how you're allowing your body to better prepare for digestion, if you're struggling with digestion right now, let's shift to more low intensity movement. If we're doing a lot of HIIT, we're doing a lot of high intensity, we're pushing ourselves hard, we're getting our heart rate really high, it might be that we need to just relax our body overall across the day. And so you might find if we're working on our overall gut health, we might need to lower the intensity of our exercise. Maybe shoot for more just walking, maybe just do less cardio. Maybe if you are weightlifting, let's kind of decrease the intensity a little bit. If we're doing HIIT, maybe let's replace that with more just slow weight training with like some good rest times between. Like that alone can make a big difference. Cutting back on overall just like the types of foods that we're eating. We're going to talk about what we're eating, but just kind of overall lifestyle tip here, just really focusing on quality over like actually, the more low calorie types of foods, a lot of fake foods, like that's going to be harder for your body right now.
More processed foods.
Exactly. Thank you. We also can look at like how much are we sleeping. If you're getting a good 7 to 9 hours of good quality sleep, that's going to be huge for your gut health. And then overall, how much water are we drinking? Like we said, not drinking water with meals, but overall drinking plenty of water. I would say try to get a good 100 ounces of water in if we're dealing with gut health issues right now. Now, let's talk about meal timing. So we talked about how we eat. That's a huge pillar of this, a huge piece. Now, we need to talk about when are we eating, right? So your body, as we know, it operates on a circadian rhythm, right? There is a time of day where you are naturally going to be more tired. You're going to be more prone to sleep. There's a time of day where you are more prone to be awake, right? Our gut is part of that process. It's part of that rhythm. And if we eat at similar times across the day, you're helping your body stay on this nice rhythm. And if we are just like eating at specific meal times, we're not grazing across the day, what that is doing is that's really good for what's called your migrating motor complex. So this is like the process of the digestive system that between meals, this is your body's like fasting period doing this kind of like sweep through. Because if you're just eating all day long, you're just grazing, having little bits of things here and there, what's going to happen is your body's just constantly digesting. It's never actually getting that, like those break periods where it can say, okay, time to clean up. Just like if you went to like a restaurant and they have certain periods during the day where they close for a little bit, where they say, okay, let's clean off the tables. Let's prepare for our next round of customers coming later. Your body's doing the same thing. It needs to have those periods of time where it is in a fasting period. This could be 2-3 hours. And that's where essentially like the housekeeper comes in and just really kind of helps sweep that undigested matter through, and any kind of just like, things that got stuck that aren't supposed to be there. It helps kind of pull everything through. So some overall strategies to help with the meal timing side of this, the when that we should be eating. Ideally, and some of these pieces might vary depending on who you are, what you've been doing, kind of like sometimes we might need to change things up a little bit, but some good overall kind of rules of thumb to start working on these things is, let's start with eating our first meal within 1 to 2 hours of waking. That's going to be a great way to just kind of stimulate the digestive tract in the morning and kind of get your body like, okay, it's time to start eating now. We're breaking that overnight fast. When you first start kind of your day, really good idea to start with a good warm water. For myself, I like to drink an herbal tea. I like to just like every morning, first thing I do.
You have been doing really good about that.
Yeah, that's been like a few months now that I've been really consistent on that routine, and it really does make a difference for my digestion. Starting the day with a nice cup of herbal tea. I just do a cup of dandelion and peppermint together. I personally like the taste. Dandelion's really good for the liver. Peppermint's good for the gut, and it's just a nice, good combination there. But starting with that warm water, warm tea, maybe put a little lemon in some water, whatever that looks like, that's really, really good for waking up the digestive system. Coffee, not the best way to wake up the digestive system. You can have that coffee, don't you worry, depending on depending on who you are. Like, I'm not going to tell you can't have coffee yet. When we get more into like specific gut protocols, might need to pull back on that, and for reasons we could talk about. But for now, let's just start with not starting with coffee. Have your warm liquid, have your breakfast, have your meal, and then have your coffee. Now, from there on, again, coming back to that migrating motor complex, let's eat every 2 to 3 hours. So rather than going for like 6 hours without eating because you're staying so busy, and then you have this massive meal, that's gonna be a lot harder on your gut. Eat a little bit smaller meals every 2 to 3 hours rather than massive meals every like 6 hours or 8 hours, even some people do. When we eat these meals, we want them just to be overall balanced. We're going to talk a little bit more about kind of what to eat here depending on the situation, but just in general, making our meals balanced, having a dedicated protein source, a carb source, a fat source, making sure that there's fiber within every meal. I always aim to have as much color as possible in my meal, so I'm shooting to add some fruits and vegetables. Need to always have at least one fruit or vegetable, need to always have at least one kind of bright color, something green, red, blues, like adding in those colors.
Bell peppers are really good.
Yes.
With your eggs in the morning.
100%. And then, avoiding the grazing, snacking, just like we talked about, we need to make sure that your body knows when it's a meal versus when it's in that fasted period, and it can kind of go through its like housekeeping process, right? A good kind of rule of thumb overnight is to do a 12-hour fast. So if you have your dinner at 7 p.m., you have your breakfast at 7 a.m. If you're a super early riser, and again, we kind of want to eat within 1 to 2 hours. So if you wake up at 5, maybe you're having breakfast at 6:30, maybe, pushing it closer to that 2-hour mark, having it at 7. We need to make sure then that we have our dinner earlier as well. So just kind of like aiming for that 12-hour overnight fast is going to be really helpful, especially if you have a lot of gut issues. Like, that could be a great place to start too. Now let's talk about the what.
I feel like this is what people are waiting for.
Yeah, the what to eat here. So we're going to look at this kind of high level from 2 different aspects. If you are more prone to constipation, we're going to talk about that, versus if you are more prone to diarrhea, we're going to talk about that, because those are really common things that we'll see in some gut health issues. And when I talk about constipation, because some people might hear those and be like, I don't deal with either. Well, here's what we're kind of defining constipation as. You should be going 1 to 3 times every day. If you're not having 1 to 3 bowel movements per day, then you are under our definition, you are constipated. Medically, they may not yet consider you constipated, but from a functionally optimal level and the way we need to be actually using bowel movements to clear out toxins, clear out excess hormones, clear out anything that your body needs to be clearing out, we need to be going 1 to 3 times every day. So if you are not, then you fall into this category. You also fall into this category if you're going once per day, but they're like these small, like lumpy, hard to pass, maybe like pellet type of bowel movements. That is also going to fall into our definition of constipated. So if we stay constipated, you're not going to want to stay that way. I think most people know, like, doesn't feel great. Everyone knows if you're going regularly, you just feel better, you feel lighter, you feel leaner, just it feels a lot better, right? But longer term, if we continue to stay constipated, we're not addressing these bowel movements, you are 100% going to end up with hormonal imbalances. Bowel movements is how we clear out excess hormones. If we are not going enough, you are not clearing out excess hormone, you are going to end up with hormonal imbalances. Like, it is a given. So how do we work through constipation? What should we be eating? 3 things I kind of want to look at here. 1, fiber. The other is fluids. And then even though we talked about, without supplements or labs, I am going to talk high level about a couple of supplements that, because again, I generally do not talk about supplements publicly in kind of like broad spaces, because I believe that supplements should be on a very case-by-case, individualized basis only. These supplements are a little bit of an exception here. Now, fiber. So the ideal intake of fiber is for every 1,000 calories you're eating, 14 grams of fiber is what you want to be getting in.
For every 1,000 calories you're eating?
Every 1,000 calories. So if you eat 2,000 calories, that is 28 grams of fiber that you need to be eating.
Got it.
For most women, we're typically shooting for at least 25 grams of fiber, depending on your body size, who you are, and of course, like, depending on our symptoms. It's a little bit harder to ramp our fiber up if we're dealing with a lot of digestive issues. You might find yourself being more bloated, more gassy. We might need to kind of solve some of these issues first before we can increase our fiber intake. But when it comes to constipation specifically, fiber is going to be really, really important. So some fibers that specifically have been studied for constipation that we're going to want to focus on. The first one being inulin. So this is a soluble fermentable fiber. It might cause some gas if we're ingesting it. So of course, be aware. Maybe you work from home and you're like, okay, I know this is going to help my constipation. So on my days I work from home, I'm going to
be gassy.
And then if I'm going to be out and about around people, maybe I don't have as much of it. Now, this is found in chicory root, is a high source of inulin. So you might find even if you look at like a lot of foods that are like considered high fiber foods, you'll find a lot of them will have that as an ingredient. It'll be like chicory root powder. Huh. That's them adding in that fiber source. So that's something also to be aware of. If you are, again, you're someone who maybe you already are dealing with a lot of like gassiness and you're like, oh, well, I eat plenty of fiber. Look at your sources of fiber. If you're eating a lot of like bars and high fiber foods, check the ingredients. And if there's a lot of inulin, if there's a lot of like chicory root fiber, it might be that that's a little bit too much for you right now. So kind of the dose is going to be important here, but like finding the right amount to help with the constipation, but not too much to where now you're getting really uncomfortably gassy. Another fiber that's been researched for constipation is pectin. So this is also a soluble fermentable fiber. This is found in citrus peels, apples, plums, cherries, apricots, carrots, among other foods. So lots of fruits and vegetables are a really great source of this. So rather than me telling you, hey, go in and eat pectin, just go eat lots of fruits and vegetables. Very, very easy rule to follow, right? The third fiber that's specifically been researched for constipation is psyllium. A lot of people are familiar with psyllium because psyllium husk.
I was going to ask, is that?
Yep, that's become really popular as a supplement for gut issues. So this is a soluble gel-forming type of fiber. This acts really as like a bulk laxative in the body. It kind of bulks up the stool and kind of helps pull things through. You can also find this in a lot of products that are like oats, barley, legumes, so beans, lentils, things like that. So in general, maybe try adding a little bit more beans and lentils and things into your diet. Now, the other aspect of this is fluids. So we talked about on the how to eat side of things, about having that warm water in the morning. Now, when we talk about what to eat, I'm also throwing in the hydration side of this, and water is so important. If you are constipated, if you're having hard, lumpy stools, if you're not going often enough, we've got to work on increasing your water intake. You could be eating enough fiber, you could be eating the perfect, type of foods and the amount of foods, but your body can't pull it through if it doesn't have the water to actually create that stool. Exactly, to like flush it on through. So in general, again, I like to start my day with a nice glass of warm water. I use a nice herbal tea. With constipation, herbal teas in general can be helpful. So like peppermint, like I talked about, dandelion, also helpful. Ginger or like a ginger turmeric. These can be really, really helpful for a little bit of like an angry gut as well. But in general, increase your water, especially if you focus on increasing your fiber, increase your water as well. If you just increase fiber and you don't increase water, you're going to feel worse. And then, as promised, I wanted to touch on supplements a little bit here. And really the main one that I want to hit on is magnesium. So magnesium citrate is a form of magnesium that really is almost can be a little bit like a laxative. This can be really helpful if we are constipated. Adding a little bit more of that magnesium citrate can help. The other form of magnesium that I'll typically recommend is magnesium glycinate. Now that one is specifically more working on the nervous system, but like we talked about on that how to eat side of things, super important to be getting our nervous system into a good place. Magnesium glycinate will help get your nervous system into a good place.
Is magnesium glycinate the one you take in the evenings, like before you're going to bed, or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, it's good for just kind of helping your nervous system wind down before bed as well. And then the other supplement I wanted to add in here is a fiber supplement, because some people still struggle with getting fiber from food. And while I always say food first, let's focus on getting our fiber from food. If we need to increase our fiber with a supplement, a good supplement for that is sun fiber. That's a good quality blend of types of fibers. Now on the diarrhea side of things, so this is going to be defined as if you are going more than 3 times per day, and or if your stools are really soft, liquidy, they're not really formed, maybe there's some mucus present. Sorry if you're eating a meal right now and I'm grossing you out, but just kind of helping you understand what to look for. So of course, with this, again, we have to look at how we're eating. We have to look at lifestyle. Diarrhea is often a source of stress, stress is often a source. It's like if your body's in a stress state, you're much more likely to have diarrhea. So we got to start there. We got to make sure that we're getting into a calm place. We got to make sure we're working on our nervous system. Now, with diarrhea specifically, most of what I talked about on the constipation does carry over to this. Working on our fiber intake is going to help kind of bulk things up so that it's not just kind of coming through liquidy, right? Focusing on overall quality foods, having a good balanced meals like we talked about. But with diarrhea specifically, really want to look at kind of the quality. So if you're consuming a lot of like artificial sweeteners, a lot of like sugar alcohols, that can be a little bit more of a propensity for diarrhea. So let's see if we can remove those from our diet, try and get a little bit more and more natural, more whole food based. Again, looking at hydration, kind of same thing. We do need to still be hydrated, but especially with diarrhea, we might be actually dehydrating ourselves a little bit there. So
that makes sense.
We need to replace our fluids. But we also need to make sure we're replacing electrolytes effectively. I often will recommend for most people taking like a 1 quality electrolyte packet per day. We've talked about before, we personally use Element, not associated with it. Again,
but if they want to sponsor us, they can.
No, we're not associated with any supplement companies, and we are not wanting to be, so they do not need to sponsor us.
I just want one of their Yeti cups. I told you this yesterday.
Yes, I know. You just want the swag.
I do.
And then on that side too, so if we're like really feeling like we're got a lot of diarrhea going on, that's where typically you'll recommend like the brat diet. So brat.
Is it brat or brat?
I always say brat, but could be pronounced either way.
I like brat.
Yeah, so the brat diet, so it stands for bananas, rice, applesauce, and toast. That's a really good, simple diet if we're dealing with that. This is not something to stay on long term because you are not going to be getting your body what it needs, but doing this for a few days can help your body, help your system calm down. It's kind of like if your dog is having stomach issues and it's like
just about to say
the classic of like just give them boiled chicken and rice. Kind of similar to that, but we won't necessarily do the chicken because protein is harder for us to digest. And then again, fiber. Really specifically looking at that soluble fiber is going to help bind the stool together. So apples, oats, beans, berries, avocados, potatoes, especially with the skin on, like these are great for sources of fiber.
I thought you were saying avocados with the skin on. I was like, how do you eat that? Potatoes with the skin on.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
You don't ever grab an avocado and just bite into it like an apple?
No.
Wow, weird. So that would be like my biggest things as far as what to work on. if you want to start improving your gut health without supplements or labs. But again, depending on who you are, I want to emphasize labs and or supplements might be necessary. And I'm saying this as somebody who, again, I have no associations with supplement companies. I have no ties to like whether or not people buy supplements. I don't even like our coaches. We encourage them to have codes for different things just so that they can give their clients a little bit of a discount and kind of like things on that we're recommending anyway. But our company and myself not associate with any supplements because of the fact that I truly believe supplements should be on an individual basis. I do not like making blanket recommendations for supplements across the board. And the reality is, any client who comes into our program, you're likely going to need to take some supplements at some point. Might not be right off the bat because we got to build the stable foundation. We got to work on the things we talked about here in this episode. Until we're doing those things effectively, might not make sense to invest into supplements. But if you want to see the best results possible as fast as possible, labs and supplements are going to get you there. That's just the reality of it.
And another thing you shared yesterday, going back to the analogy thing, I think to your point, whether it is labs or whether it is, supplements or whatever it is that you're dealing with, you kind of had shared yesterday, which I think is such a great example of it. But it's like, if you can get all of these things, but you don't have somebody that's there guiding you, answering questions, making sure that you are doing the right steps to heal, whether it is hormones or, gut health or metabolism. It's kind of like getting an MRI for a knee or a broken bone. And then you go into WebMD and trying to figure it out all on your own, right?
Yeah.
It makes no sense because, sure, eventually I'm sure you can Google all of this, but you don't know the physiology of that, broken bone, or you don't know how to fix it. You don't know how to do surgery. It's the same concept here where it's like, hey, you need somebody that sure gives you some sort of insight and answers and gets to that true root cause. But now comes the fun part where it's like, okay, in addition to the foundation, like you were saying, what else is needed? Because certain things aren't going to work right away, or certain things aren't going to work for a certain person, period. And so this is where the pivot, the change is going to be needed to prevent you from getting frustrated or overwhelmed to begin with, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I hope this was helpful for you. I hope this gets you starting to feel better in your gut health by focusing on these things. If you do want more help with supplements, labs, more of that individual one-on-one guidance, that's what our company, Vital Spark Coaching, does so well. So you can reach out to me on Instagram to learn more about that, or you can find the link in our bio. As I mentioned, we do have a wait. We have about a 3-month or so wait list right now. So if it's something you're interested in doing in the next, 3 to 6 months, definitely go ahead and reach out now so we can kind of get you.
What's your IG so people can find you?
At Vanessa G Fitness. So thank you so much, you guys, for listening. We'll be back next week with another great episode.
Bye, everybody.